Hey, hello friends, welcome to my channel. In this Python beginner tutorial series, today let's discuss about Python input output. Alright, so in this particular video, we'll focus on how to get an input from a user during runtime and how do we customize our output, how do we write output into a file. So we'll see more in details about how we can deal with Python input and output. Alright, so to start with, first we will look at Python input. How can we get an input from a user during runtime? Alright, so in case if you are put in a situation when you're running a program, you want to get an input from the user and display it accordingly. Okay, in those kind of situations, you can use an inbuilt method called input, which will easily does the work for you. So if you look at the syntax, we have an input method and we have something called a prompt. Prompt is the string which we want to display in the console. Okay, so this is the basic syntax of input method. So let's see an example, and once we see an example, I think you'll have a very much understanding. So I have given an example out here where I'm getting an input from the user. All right, I'm getting a number as an input from the user. I'm just trying to print it. Okay, let's see this. Let's see how this works. This is a very basic one. All right, so very basic and easiest one. Let's see how we can do this. I'm having a input, enter a number. Okay, let me enter a number. So by providing this input method, I'm getting an input from the user, and then I'm simply printing it. Print number is the actual num variable which we defined. All right, so now if I run this, all right, it prompts me a message in the console telling enter a number which I provided in the input method. Okay, so now if I enter a number, say 7, so it will tell the number is 7. It just printed me something. Okay, so in this way you can actually prompt a user to enter an input using input method. Right, by default it is of string type. For example, if I print the print type of num, this is of string type. Okay, you can see say if I'm entering 5, and you can see the class is string. By default it takes string. In case if there is a specific data type that you want to provide, you can provide it using, for example, if you want to provide integer, you can provide integer like this. Now if I run this, now it takes integer. Now you can see the class is int. By default it was string, but in case if you want to accept only the integer numbers or any data type, you can provide that data type here in before your input method. Okay, so this is how you can get an input from a user and print it in the console. Okay, so this is all about Python input. Next we have something called Python output. Okay, so during our previous videos or even here, you can remember that I've used this print statement. Okay, you can see this is the very basic syntax. Okay, I will use a print statement and provide a string within the normal braces. So and as I said in my prior videos, now I have used this print statement multiple times. By the time you would have just printed it, but this print is actually part of Python output. Okay, so let's see. If I want to print some basic string, say let me call an IT professional. If I run this, you can see it actually printed me the string that I am giving inside my print method. All right, but this is the one which we basically used every time, but there are few other parameters that you can provide within your print statement, which I don't think many people are aware of. Okay, so give me a second, I will go to the slide. This is not very popularly used, but I know that there are very few advanced programmers who regularly use this, but there are many people who do not know if these parameters exist in print statement. Okay, so these are the key parameters of Python output statement, basically print statement. Okay, first we have object, it is the value to be printed. Next we have SCP separator, and it is used to separate multiple objects inside the print statement. Next we have something called end, which is allows us to add specific values like new line or tab, which at the end of the line. So we have something called end. And next we have something called file, where the values are printed. Its default value is standard sys.standard output, which is the screen console that we are actually using. That's file. And finally we have something called flush. Flush is a, if you want to buffer your output in this kind of situation, you will use flush, boolean specifying if the in output is flushed or buffer. Okay, by default the value is false. All right, so let's see all these things in detail so that you will have a very clear understanding. All right, so next one is, let's see what is separator. So all these things, all these parameters are just optional parameters. It's not mandatory parameters that needs to go with print, but if at all you want to use this kind of parameters, and obviously this will be very handy. First we'll see about separator. All right, so it allows us to separate multiple objects inside the print. All right, so in case if you want to split it based on certain conditions. All right, say let me give you an example. Say I have multiple values inside it. So first I have IT professional, let's say Python tutorial. Next let's have some basic string called, say let's call just tutorial. All right, now say you have three strings within the print statement, and if you want to separate it based on certain conditions, say separate it by dot. Okay, I want to separate all these strings and provide a dot for as a separator. All right, so if I run this, you can see I've got all the three strings that I provided in the print statement, but you can see it got separated with dot by default, and dot, which is the separator which I have provided. Okay, so this way you can use the separate parameter. In case if you want to separate it using slash, you can provide it something like this. Okay, you can provide everything within a separate parameter. All right, this is how separate parameter will work. And next we have something called end parameter. All right, so before seeing the end parameter, I will give you an example. Say if I write up two print statements. So print IT professional, let's call print Python tutorial. Now if I run this, you can see in the output console it printed one after the other. All right, so first we had IT professional, and next we had Python tutorial. But if I have this here, if I add an end parameter here, end equal to space, now you can see the output got printed here in the same line itself. It ended with a space. Now if I remove the space, there will be no space between your two strings. I have given a space. Okay, so by using the end parameter, you can actually customize what needs to be happening at the end of your string. Okay, now if I go back to the definition, it allows us to add specific values like new line, slash n, tab, slash t, whatever it is. Okay, so anything if you want to provide something like this, you can see now it will come in a new line because I am providing as slash n. Slash n means new line. If I provide a slash t tab, now you can see it had a tab space here. Okay, so in case if you want to provide any specific values like new line, tab, space, you will actually use this end parameter. Basically what it means is what needs to be happen at the end of each and every string. Okay, that's what you provide in the end character. All right, and then we have our next parameter, which is file parameter. Okay, so file parameter will give you an option to print your output into a file. Okay, before going into that, I will show you something. Okay, so I said the default value is sys.standardout, right? So this is basically printed in the screen. So what we are seeing is here is the actual default value. All right, in case if for some reason if I want to print an error, okay, print and show the user an error, say professional, here I'm gonna provide file parameter, file equal to sys.std error. Before using this, I have to import sys, import sys. Okay, so now when I use the standard error, you can see in the output console it prints in red color. Okay, because I'm just specifying it as an error. Okay, so this is something I just wanted to show you, but no, in real time this is very rarely used. But if at all you want to use this kind of parameters, you can definitely use. Okay, this is an additional information that I wanted to give you, but this is not very much important. Okay, now coming to our actual topic, the file parameter. So file parameter can be used to print something into our file. Okay, if you want your output to be written into your file, then you can use this file parameter. Let me show you an example. Say I will call file to be printed. Okay, now I'm gonna use open method. So in case if you are new to file handling, I will give you a link in the description box which gives you more information about how to read, write and append to a text file. So you can look into that if this part is really confusing. Sample dot say let me call as sample file dot text. Now if there is a file existing, then it will overwrite it, or else it would create a new file. Write mode, and basically what I'm planning to do is I'm just trying to add some contents into my text file. So here I'm just printing it MIT professional, comma. So I'm going to provide the actual file to be printed. Now if I run this, okay, now this will be saved in the default path. Okay, in case if you want to provide any specific path, you can provide the specific path here. For now, since this is in the yeah, I think it would be now here in the scripts. What is the file name? Sample file. Yeah, here it is. This is the sample file, which you can look at the timestamp. It just now got written. Now if I open this, yeah, here it is. Okay, now it wrote the contents into a sample file. Okay, so this way you can use the file parameter to write or log any kind of details into your files. Okay, so this way you can use file parameter in the print statement. All right, and finally we have something called flush parameter. Okay, this is really important, and sometimes it's confusing. People often gets confused how flush parameter work. Okay, but if you understand the concept, it is really very easy. All right, let me show you an example of how flush operator will work. Okay, so as you can see in the definition, it is a boolean specifying if the output is flushed or buffered. By default the value is false, right? So the Python's print statement has an exclusive attribute which is flush, which allows the user to decide if he or she wants his outputs to be buffer or not. Okay, the default value of this is false, meaning the output will be buffered. If you change it to true, the output will be written as a sequence of characters one after the other. Alright, so now let's see an example of how this works. Okay, in order to depict this example, I will try to run. Okay, first I will try to print it here. I will show you an example first. Right, so to do that I need to import the from the time module, from time import sleep. Okay, so now I am just trying to print anitprofessional now I want to my program to sleep for 5 seconds, basically wait for 5 seconds and then execute my next statement, that is my next print statement, say Python tutorial. Now if I run this, you can see my first print statement got printed and it will wait for 5 seconds and then will print my second one. So you can see it ran my first print statement. I will try to rerun it again. It ran my first print statement. Next here comes to the sleep statement and it waits for 5 seconds and it prints my next print statement here. Okay, so this is how generally the sleep method will work. All right, but where does this flush comes handy is, so whenever we use end, okay, end equal to, right, and for some reasons it's not perfectly working fine in my PyCharm. I will try to rectify that, but I can show you how this works in the command prompt terminal. Okay, let me open this command terminal. Let me go into the path. So this is the path where my file resides, right? So cd scripts. So what is the right, and now if I run this, you can see it's waiting for so long time when I provided the end parameter. So basically now if I look at the program, first we had okay, before going to that I will remove this end and run and show you in the terminal. So now we have a print statement and then sleep and then again a print statement. Now if I go to the terminal, now if I run this, you can see first an IT professional got printed and then it waits for 5 seconds and then it printed the Python tutorial, which is absolutely fine. Okay, but when we introduce this end parameter, okay, when we introduce this end parameter, what happens is, you can see, the first string, an IT professional, does not get printed. It waits for 5 seconds and it enters the entire string again. An IT professional and Python tutorial, it enters the two strings after waiting for 5 seconds. The reason is because it got buffered. Okay, so it got buffered, and when after the sleep statement is executed, it printed everything simultaneously together, right? So if you look at the actual program, it is not working as expected. Okay, that's where the flush parameters becomes handy. Okay, so now if you introduce this flush parameter with this end statement, end parameter, flush equal to true, by default it is false, but if you have to flush it, it will be true. Flush means just omit it. Now if I run this in the terminal, I have to stop it, right? Now if I go and run this, now you can see an IT professional got printed and then it wait for 5 seconds and then it printed the output called Python tutorial. Okay, So what happened is it actually buffered the previous print statement. Buffered means keeping it in a buffered state. It did not print it in the console. And once a sleep statement executed, it printed every string at a once, which is not what we expect. Okay, so we can use this flush parameter to actually decide if we want to buffer the previous string or not. Okay, so this is how this flush parameter will become very handy. Okay, so that's all what I want to cover as part of this video, guys. Okay, in case if you have any queries, please let me know in the comment section. I will try to answer it as soon as possible. Thank you.